I know you don't want to talk about the Inspector General report, but testing is still a big issue in this country. When can hospitals expect?
Put the slide up again, please.
When can hospitals expect to receive a quick turnaround of these test results?
Are you ready? Hospitals can do their own testing also. States can do their own testing. States are supposed to be doing testing. Hospitals are supposed to be doing testing. Do you understand that? We're the federal government. Listen to me. We're the federal government. We're not supposed to stand on street corners doing testing. They go to doctors. They go to hospitals. They go to the state. The state is a more localized government. You have 50 of them, and they can go 50 within here. You also have territories, as you know, and they do the testing. And if you look at the chart, if you take a look, did they put it up? Yeah. Just take a look. And these are testing, and the results are now coming in very quickly. Initially speaking, the tests were old, obsolete, and not really prepared. We have a brand new testing system that we developed very quickly, and that's your result. And you should say, congratulations, great job, instead of being so horrid in the way you ask a question. Please, go ahead.
This is Trump lashing out at even a Fox News reporter now, Kristen Fisher, for committing the cardinal sin of not just blindly taking Trump at his word that everyone, everywhere is able to get a test. And so Trump dives into a freewheeling rant diffusing responsibility at every turn imaginable. He claims that hospitals should be doing their own testing. In other words, Trump is basically saying that the federal government bears no responsibility here, that it's suddenly up to the states to fend for themselves. Keep in mind, this is exactly why we pay taxes to the federal government for situations like this, so that when a deadly pandemic sweeps across the country, we don't have a patchwork of random states working with limited resources to scrounge a solution together. It's so that we can use the powers of the federal government, of the NIH and the CDC and our federal stockpile to come up with a solution. And the fact that the President of the United States is the first one to shirk all responsibility doesn't exactly instill a ton of confidence. He even demands that Fisher should frame her question as a compliment. But here's what Trump doesn't seem to understand. A, you don't get a round of applause for doing your job, and B, you definitely don't get a round of applause for doing your job poorly, because that's what's happened here. And that isn't me being partisan, it's based on data. We have the most number of cases in the world by nearly triple the next country, and we have the fastest growing death rate in the world as well. So Trump can point to these arbitrary achievements like having ramped up testing, and that's all well and good, but you don't get points for those. You get points for keeping people alive. And of course, because he is a toddler, all Donald Trump has to fall back on are his charts. And he shows this one in particular, showing the rising number of tests in this country. Only increased testing isn't some victory in that it is directly correlated with the number of Americans who've contracted the virus and who've died from it. It's all going up. That's not a win, it is expressly a loss, a failure. Because A, if we wanted to be able to point to testing as a victory, we should have done it weeks or months ago. Not trying to have a negative outlook here, but at this point it's too late. The point of large-scale testing being implemented early, like in South Korea, was to contain the spread and stop the virus. It was to let us know who had it right away so that they could be isolated and we could flatten the curve. But we didn't do that, because in the United States, Trump was busy pretending that this thing didn't even exist and stopping cruise ships from docking in port because he didn't want his numbers going up and telling everyone to go back to work. When we should have been getting out in front of it, we let it spread uninhibited. So even if we were testing 1 million people a day now, it's already spread throughout the entire country, hundreds of thousands of people, and it's expected to hit into the millions in a matter of days. So I get that Trump wants a medal for ramping up testing. I get that he likes to show off his shiny new chart, but being among the last countries on the face of the earth to figure out what the rest of the world had figured out weeks ago isn't exactly cause for celebration. You know what you get credit for? Flattening the curve, keeping the number of positive cases to a minimum, ensuring that people live. Donald Trump didn't do any of that. Those are the only markers of success here. I get that he wants to move the goalposts and pretend that achieving a lot of tests in April is some Herculean task, but it's not. It's what we should have done months ago. I get that he wants to tout 5-minute tests, but again, that's not a marker of success. It's what we should have done months ago. The marker of success now, several months after our government learned of the outbreak, is ensuring that the most Americans possible survive, and yet that's not what's happening. Every single day we hit a new peak. So I apologize if I seem like a nihilist, test, but I'm not going to stand here and dole out participation trophies to a government that has solidified its spot as having responded the worst on the face of the earth. And if you know any doctors or nurses or essential workers or have vulnerable family members who are immunodeficient or older, or God forbid if you know anyone or lost anyone from the virus itself, then I bet my house that you're not impressed either that we finally figured out how to test people in April for a virus that landed here in January.